Welcome to today's edition of the CIO Watercooler TV. My name's David Savage. I'm your host for today's session. I'm lucky to be joined by Lee and David from IBM Cloud. Before we get into anything else, obviously this is a little bit different. We normally just have one guest. We've got two. So I'm going to be very lazy and ask you to introduce yourselves. Arbitrarily, Lee, you're to my left on my screen. Sorry, what do you do?
Good morning. Yes, so I lead the technical sales team for IBM Cloud in EMEA, specifically focused on the platform as a service. So this is our large catalog of services that we've available to help people to modernize and create cloud applications.
And David, how do you work alongside Lee then?
Hi, Dave. So I'm responsible for the commercial part of our platform as a service business across EMEA. So we kind of dovetail our roles here and perhaps can bring a couple of different perspectives today.
So look, let's start there. Why have we got you both on the call? I'd imagine that commercial element is a bit of a clue. The market's obviously moving, but why did we want to get both sides here of this conversation?
So I think from my perspective, it's really important that we really give a point of view that is both a market kind of perspective, which is something that hopefully I'll be able to provide today, but also as and when people start to think, well, hang on, well, what about the technical aspects of this, and what do I think about the technical challenges? And hopefully, Lee, that's where you're going to step in.
I hope so too.
Well, look, let's start with the market. We've all been talking about an acceleration of digital tech over the last year. But what's that actually meant out in the market? We know that cloud is being heavily invested in, but beyond just cloud, what is it specifically that you're finding that customers are coming to you with requirements for?
So it's interesting, actually. I put some of this down to perhaps the pandemic effect, where frankly the whole market has kind of changed and had to adapt really quickly. And if you think about what we believe the main foundation of public cloud is all about, it's innovation. And that's what we're seeing in the market, is that customers are now looking at ways to innovate really quickly and adapt to really dynamic environments. And I think in that sense, clients are coming to us now with a view that, look, we know we've got to innovate. We can't afford to do it the old, three-tiered architecture, on-premise kind of approach. We need to be agile. And really, that's what cloud brings to the fore, is that agility, and reduces that time to value for a number of clients. So the pandemic in many ways has really been a terrific environment for people to experiment, to try that innovation, try those tentative new ways of working. And the cloud is the facilitating technology for that.
So forgive me, and this might be a naive question, but the cloud's been around for quite some time. If companies are innovating and they're looking for that flexibility, what's wrong with the cloud that we've had for the last 2 or 3 years? What's different now that's provoking this change in what you're offering?
So I think a couple of things. First of all, I think corporate culture is very much seeing the cloud as it's not this dangerous Wild West anymore. We've got the compliance, regulation, and all of those different elements that now apply just as much to cloud as it did on-prem. So I think that has given a fundamental confidence to many of our clients on the more IT side of the spectrum. And I think couple that with the need to innovate and the embracing of a lot of business people in recognizing that actually the cloud is a tool, an avenue for innovation, converge those two agendas, and suddenly you get a little bit more momentum. I think the other thing that's probably worth mentioning at this point is that this whole concept of adopting cloud and really what it means, it's changed over the last couple of years, really with vendors like ourselves saying, you know what, actually the cloud no longer should be a dictating factor for you in terms of what you can do in the cloud. You should be able to dictate where that cloud needs to reside, right? So we've adapted to that. Back in March, we announced our satellite capabilities. And what satellite really represents is IBM's ability to really park its shop window, its shop front, within the client's parameters. Now, those parameters, by the way, could be another hyperscaler, it could be on-prem, it could be in a separate data center somewhere. And I think IBM has got to the point where we're saying, hey, you know, you need to have a unified experience across all of those things, because the inhibitors are still there, right, for cloud. And the inhibitors that we tend to see are around things like data residency, skills. You know, you can't have skills, you know, especially if you're playing at the edge, you can't have skills everywhere you want the data to reside. And so you actually have to outsource some of that capability out to the market. And that's where IBM is kind of recognizing this as a route for clients to exploit the cloud, with an opportunity to mitigate many of the concerns that they would have had previously.
So look, if we bring Lee into the conversation, because David, what you're saying there is that people might want the cloud anywhere. Right? Yesterday, let's kind of Wizard of Oz moment, pull the curtain back. I mean, you were talking about the fact that someone might want the cloud on a ship. And that sounds like it's quite a unique requirement, and that might cause you some technical challenges from delivering the kind of services that the customer is expecting. So what has that meant from your perspective in terms of what you had to do as an organization there to make sure that you can deliver and meet those expectations?
Yes, I mean it's a good point, and you know we want to be able to provide that as a service model to customers wherever they choose to run their applications and their workloads. Take the OpenShift platform as an example. Going back to what Dave was saying, you know, that's a perfect example. It gives you that consistency of development environment wherever you choose to play, really. So you may, you know, decide that you're going to have your dev and your test environments up in the public cloud, but you want that same environment on-prem when you want to bring production workloads down on-prem and bring those workloads next to the data. So the technical challenges involved with that are obviously we need to have hosts. We need to have somewhere that our services can actually be installed and actually be run. So we have this concept of a satellite location, and as you say, a satellite location could be anywhere. It could be, you know, in the cupboard under your stairs. It could be on a ship. All we require really is that you provide us those RHEL 7 hosts onto which we can install satellite, and then you can start to download the services that you want to use. Now, there is this concept of a satellite link that connects the satellite location, let's say, you know, on a ship in this respect, back to a public cloud data center. So, you know, at certain points in time, that link is going to have to be in place. But the great thing about satellite is that it doesn't need that link to be permanently in place. Satellite locations can tolerate the absence of the link for quite some time. But, you know, ultimately, you know, this is not supposed to be an air gap solution. A link needs to be present time and again, just so that the satellite location can kind of report back into the mothership, right? Ultimately, satellite is not supposed to be an air gap solution. There is supposed to be a link back to the mothership, back to the IBM data center, so that we can do things like, you know, authentication and upgrades and those kinds of things. But yes, you know, a satellite location can, in principle, be disconnected from the IBM cloud for some period of time.
So, look, last quick question. This is going out to the CIO water cooler community. You've got technology leaders here who are going to be listening. They may well be looking to innovate, but what's that key moment, you think, where most organizations go, you know what, this is something that could really help us on that journey? What is it? What's that nugget that you think, actually, this is the point where we can step in and really help people?
So I would say there's a couple of things, right? So the first is it's all well and good having the technology out there, but right, we touched earlier on skills, right? So one of the things that's kind of stopping people, getting out there is have I got the skills internally to be able to make this happen? Can I help it have I got the skills internally that will make this happen quickly? And have I got the plan that allows us to get to that point where if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail fast, right? So what we would say is you need to couple the technology with that skill set. And this is where I'll introduce the IBM Cloud Garage. And that particular capability is for clients that say, you know what, I have a business vision. I have something I want to do, but I need a little bit of help understanding what those first steps in the journey are going to look like and how I condense the time it takes to get to a point where I can wave the flag and say, we've got something we can release, right? So I think it's really important to dovetail that skill set together with the technology and make sure you've got an open forum for both, and really keep an eye on where do we see business impact. One of the things we've seen with clouds is you do tend to get a lot of developers in back rooms coming up with fantastic innovations, but it's drawing that relevance back to the business leaders in our clients. So that's something that IBM, with its heritage, we would hope will be able to help our clients navigate.
Well, look, thank you for taking the time, both of you, to kind of talk through what the offering is and how it differs. So I hope it does deliver that impact. So thank you both. If you've enjoyed today's episode of the CIO Watercooler TV, please do stay, have a look around the website. There is plenty more content.